Greetings, everyone, and welcome to part 3 of the Mystery of the MAZZAROTH. Today we're going to be reading, and I'm going to be commenting a little on the MAZZAROTHIC mystery schools. Again, the Temple Doors issue I'm reading from is for 1997, and it can be found in my spirit store for sale, but also for portal members, it is part of their subscription. And so you can find that, portal members can find it in the Vault of Thoth section under Temple Doors, and it will be volume 497. And so let us begin now. We begin this portion of the article by briefly defining the 12 fonts within the planetary experience relative to the MAZZAROTH mystery work starting in Lemuria. The following list in no way encompasses all the mystery schools of the MAZZAROTHIC mystery work. However, these 12 were chosen by the spiritual hierarchy to be those mystery schools which would define the frequency of the MAZZAROTHIC path into the MAZZAROTH or higher worlds within the human experience. The first one is the Hall of the Heaven Houses, circa 500,000 BC. The Melchizedekian Supreme Temple Complex of Lemuria, or Mu. Now, before I continue, just briefly state, and I've stated this before in my various videos, but if no one has heard it, then they don't know about it, and that is that Venus, mentioned here as a viable planet or world, is viable in the higher dimensions of its frequency. In other words, it's actually viable in its center point of its frequency, just like we are here, and there are dimensions connected to it. It's a complex subject, but the point is that the little probes that go up to Venus and tell us that it's totally uninhabitable, that they're not going anywhere. They haven't left this dimension. So, you know, we have many worlds out there, and I believe most, if not all, of the planets of this solar system are viable worlds for intelligent life, and not beings that have 20 eyes and blobby bodies either. You know, real, either human or they actually are the human kindred souls in this galaxy, because within our solar system we are attenuated in a particular vibrational scope that is defined by the solar sun, or the sun that operates at the center of the solar system. So all the planets in the solar system would have to be of some kind of human-like species if they were present at all. Of course, we have animal species too, but I'm speaking of the human variety, or the sentient, the more complex, intelligent variety. They may not all look, so keenly like us that they could walk down the street, but there would be a human factor, what we call human factor involved. Okay, that went off on a long topic. Sorry about that. The other thing is, when I'm mentioning Melchizedek, that's a term that is in the Bible of the Melchizedek priests of Israel. Thoth coined that term so that it gives us a linkage between what was going on in the Melchizedek energy of the priesthood of Israel, which formulated our whole present understanding of God and spiritual cosmology, and all of that really comes out of that font. Not only the Hebraic, but back to the Assyrian, you see. So he wanted something that linked all of those together. So when he speaks about the Venusian Lord Melchizedek, which incidentally, on one layer of it, his incarnation was Thoth. In other words, Thoth was linked with Lord Melchizedek. He was part of that being. When he speaks about Melchizedek, the being, or the Melchizedek order, he's talking about something that, through time, eventually became the Melchizedek priesthood. So that's kind of how it works. Now, let's get back to the reading itself. So first, I'm quoting in this issue 497, I'm going back and quoting to my source issue from 2385. From Venus, Earth's guardian planet, Venus is a viable world in the higher dimensions, was given a doctrine to establish a means of spiritual receipt in the Supreme Temple. This was an attempt by the Universal Brotherhood, or spiritual hierarchy, to recapture radiance on the planet Earth. The hierarchies of living lights through the guardian Venus sent the emissary Melchizedek to Earth, where, in the Supreme Temple, he established the Order of Melchizedek. Surrounding the Supreme Temple was an outer circle of chambers, the whole composing the Hall of the Heaven Houses, or Zodiac. Each chamber in the circular building was a small temple unto itself, expressing the mysteries of one of the 12 zodiacal houses. Within each heaven house was established one oracle priest and 7 priestesses. Now, I'm moving back into 1997 when I say, what is being imparted here is that this mystery school temple, was given a doctrine or higher spiritual directive and mandate by the high priest Melchizedek, an emissary of the higher worlds of spiritual intelligence. The dynamic of the MAZZAROTH, the very design of this temple was such that there was a specific chamber allotted to each of the 12 signs of the zodiac, arranged in a circular pattern on the outer perimeter of the temple complex. The dynamic of the MAZZAROTH could then be worked with and anchored through the very geometry of the temple itself, greatly facilitating the subtler levels of spiritual sentient work being done. Within each of the chambers was 1 priestess oracle and 7 priests assigned to work with that particular throne or facet of the MAZZAROTH. The exact reason for this numeric arrangement, 1 oracle, 7 priests, has not yet been revealed to me at this time. Unfortunately, this temple was eventually taken over by males who wished to assume the power granted by Melchizedek to the feminine oracles. It was the feminine oracle's natural right to be in the position as a receptor for the energies of the sacred earth. The overthrow of feminine power in this temple was one of the major events in the fall from grace that the planetary consciousness experienced. Now, not to make all the men the bad guys here, there were women that were involved in the takeover as well, but mostly it was men, and they were not all of the priests, some of the priests, some outside the priesthood. It was a mixed bag, kind of like in our world today. So we go to the next, which is the second one that's listed here of the mystery schools, is the Hand of Melchizedek, circa 30,000 BC. Again, we can look at the word Melchizedek and wonder how it is translated here, but it is representing something that came out of the original Melchizedekian Supreme Temple complex. This mystery school was part of the Melchizedekian Temple in Atlantis. Oh, brother! I mean, it's kind of like, the ultimate joke that someone that has as much difficulty as I do pronouncing words would be given this particular oracleship to be able to have to deal with all this language. I mean, see Jane run is about as best as I can do without messing it up. But I'm determined, because I feel that working with these energies and actually reading it to you, despite the flawed way I'm reading it, and talking to you about it, coming from where I am and my understanding of it, how it was received by me, and it's like, it's a living experience that I'm attempting to impart to you. So even though I stutter and carry on, and with my allergies I cough, and I can't see very well, and all these things going on, I honestly believe that there is a purpose in my doing this. And if there isn't, well, please do let me know. So let's begin that one again with the Hand of Melchizedek. 30,000 BC, around that time. Again, numbers are extremely difficult to attach to, not just for me, but for anyone when we're dealing with things timing that goes back in the past that's bridging some shifting of time lines and stuff. So it's kind of hard to narrow into on it, but I'm doing the best I can here. This mystery school was part of the Melchizedekian temple in Atlantis. A lesser version of the Lemurian order of Melchizedek flourished in this mystery school for several thousand years until it too succumbed to a patriarchal takeover of the feminine seats of oracle spiritual power. This mystery school was named after a very powerful symbol, an open hand with an eye in the center of the palm. This symbol was a light form that served to activate spiritual consciousness within an individual whom had been given it by the hierarchy. Melchizedek would place this symbol into the auric field, the auric field of his initiates as an aid to them and as a spiritual sign of their service to the One. Excuse me. The next temple is the Eye of Haru, or Horace, circa 25,000 BC, a mystery school in the Temple of Senna complex at the foot of Mount Sinai. And now I'm reading back from Source, issue 488, and quote from that, "In the age of Horus, when Horus the Great, was among the Egyptian people, a new temple was built for his lineage at the foot of Mount Sinai, the Mount of Moses. This holy structure was the Temple of Senna, where the altars of Senna had been cut into the stone at the mountain's base in a time long before the Osiris period. While certain buildings of the Holy Order encircled the temple, no city was built around it, as had been done with the Osiris temple. The reasoning for not building a city around the Temple of Senna involved the sensitivity of the regions of Mount Sinai in that age and the inability of the average Egyptian to cope with the intense energies that were being manifest at this summit and down into the valley floor and into the Temple of Senna." Okay, so now I go back to 1997, as I say. I'm just time warping all over the place here. Again, we have reference to the buildings which encircle the temple, which were also structures dedicated to the 12 thrones of the MAZZAROTH, as in the Hall of the Heaven Houses. Okay, then we go on to the next temple, number 4, the Temple of the 12 Paths. This is circa 9000 BC, a mystery school in the Atlantean Hebridean temple complex of Og-Mur, Og-Mur, on the Isle of Lewis off the coast of Scotland. Thoth speaks on the Hebridean temples. Certain groups of Atlanteans, many with Hyperborean bloodlines, migrated to the British Isles during a series of lesser cataclysms which led to the final large deluge, which heralded the final demise of the Atlantean civilization. After this major deluge, there was a temple grid established upon the Scottish Hebridean Isles, whose coastal outline in some areas looked much different than today. In that age, these isles seemed relatively new, despite the fact that their geology is some of the oldest on the earth, due to the fact that the land masses were experiencing sudden upheavals. These upheavals could easily cause islands to sink and rise in the blink of an eye. The British Isles at that time were known by the Atlanteans as Alba-On, the bridging place. Their climate and topography were much like northern Atlantis, and with the temple systems that were already in place, the islands provided an inviting haven for the temple craft after the Great Deluge. The ordinary folk of Atlantis and other lands affected by the deluge largely considered Alba-On a place to be avoided. This was due to the fact that they had become very suspicious of the temple craft, now that others not that surprising, considering the misaligned experimentation conducted during the end days of Atlantis. Many of these people were not able to discern the good from the bad among them. Thus, while still respectful lest they offend the gods, they were nevertheless distrustful and preferred to stay at a distance from the Ithacus, meaning the God-knowing ones. Consequently, Alba-On was almost solely populated by Ithacus for a period of time. It's not Ithacus. I actually pronounced that right. Okay. These souls served the temple of heaven on earth in some capacity or another. The Hebrides were at that time the primary temple ground, the center place of sacred presence for all the British Isles. The priests and priestesses there were true representatives of the remaining light of the world. There was the light that had been kept comparatively pure during the Atlantean conflicts between the shepherd races, forces of light, and the Nephilim, forces of darkness. Now, the terminology that's placed here in parentheses, forces of light, forces of darkness, I interjected that because I was trying to show the differentiation between the two. But, Thoth actually doesn't like to be so separative, because some of the Nephilim actually turned around and faced the light, so to speak. So, that was sort of a shortcut I used there, which might be a little misleading. However, it was not long before the Dark Order made their shadow known on the Isles as well, yet they were not allowed upon the Hebrides. Even though they brought their own following with them, the Dark Order had no real authority with the indigenous people in the Isles, and their weaknesses were obvious. Thus they conspired to destroy the Hebridean temple stronghold. There was much intrigue and several failed attempts, but finally they were successful. The temples were greatly damaged. Although the Hebrides would remain a temple complex for a period longer, it was never again to regain its former glory. Many of the sacred keepers who served the temples of Alba-On began to move on to other lands once the main site, the Ogmur, had been destroyed. This event fractured the energy running through the entire temple matrix of the Sacred Isles that had been previously installed through high-level spiritual sentient activity. The Academy of Thoth, circa 8090 BC. This was Thoth's mystery school at Heliopolis, Egypt. It was in Heliopolis that the Solar Legion, a specific gathering of master souls incarnated in near-immortal human forms, and founded their seat of authority. They had incarnated in physical forms to aid the planet and its souls in the midst of a very difficult age when the great light was rapidly receding from the face of the earth. It was also at this sacred place that Thoth Racemus established his home and academy, and where his library still remains hidden beneath the ground to this day. In later years, the greatest of the Sun Lords, the Master Jesus, would journey to Heliopolis for his solar initiation. Other master souls such as Akhenaten, Moses, Pythagoras, and Zarathustra also made their way into the mystery schools of Heliopolis. The Academy of Thoth was maintained in a lesser form well into the 6th century BC. This was long after Thoth himself terminated his embodiment there and took his entire form into the sacred center of the earth. Heliopolis is the Greek word, of course. It was actually the city of On, and I don't know why I didn't say that in this particular text, because I knew that then, but that's what it was, or On, city of light. And the place that they say is Hermopolis in Egypt is not the original Heliopolis. It's another site which we actually physically went to on our journey in 1997, a whole other story, but I just thought I'd throw those particulars in there. Okay, the next one that's listed here, the next mystery school of the MAZZAROTH is number 6, which it's really the mystery schools of the MAZZAROTH, but leading the path to the MAZZAROTH. And number 6 is the mystery school of Onnas, O-N-N-A-S, circa 3555 BC. This mystery school was located near Galilee in Jordan. The Sphinx statue, which was given us, that was Simeon and I when we went on the path of Horace, the sacred journey to the Middle East in 1997, is part of the symbology used in the ancient mystery school of Onnas. The mystery school was located in the area of what is now called Qas, where once the Greco-Roman city of Gadara stood. The records of Thoth reveal that the mystery school of Onas continued its operations into the 3rd century BC. From the Jordan guidebook on Quas, Garden of the Decalopolis, Decapus. I'm sorry, I'm going to start getting on a giggling fit again. Oh my God, this is so hard for me. Deca. Okay. Calm it. Just be calm, Maya. Control yourself. Decapolis. I got it. Decapolis. This is a quote from this guidebook, okay? Here we go. The remains of the Greco-Roman city of Gadara are dramatically perched on a broad promontory alongside the modern Jordanian village, over the North Jordan Valley, the Sea of Galilee, on the Yarmouk River Gorge, and the Golan Heights of Syria. The setting, the panoramic views, and invigorating North Jordan climate enchant visitors to the site today, as they obviously inspired the inhabitants of the city in antiquity. In 1st century BC, the Greek poet Melagos praised his native Gadara as "my first city, famous Gadara, Attica in the land of the Assyrians," a comparison with the Hellenic world's undisputed center of classical arts, culture, and science, which testifies to Gadara's status as a dynamic and creative urban center of Hellenism in the ancient Orient, and it sustained this role for perhaps 6 centuries, from Alexander the Great's conquest of the Orient just before 300 BC to the proclamation of the Byzantine Empire just after 380. Okay, so now we go back to Thoth, well, at least to the Temple Doors volume. The records of Thoth reveal that Gadara was built atop an even more ancient city, Jotathal, in which the Onas Mystery School first began. When Jotathal was destroyed by invasion, the Mystery School of Onas went underground to re-emerge centuries later in Gadara. Its demise in Gadara came when a purge of the city took place to cleanse it of mystery schools and religious orders not in keeping with the official tenets of the time. Quas, the location of the ancient Gadara, is one of what Thoth calls the 5 cities or pillars of light. The central of the 5 cities is Beit Ras, Uri Salameh Hebron, which Thoth proclaims to be the first Salem, the second being Jerusalem. Our Jordanian friend Rami informs us that there is a large tunnel connecting these 2 cities, Beit Ras and Quas. The Sphinx statue given us while in Jordan represents the guardian of MAZZAROTH, the androgynous lion human who holds the mystery of the starry way, the zodiac. I'm pausing here a minute to show you the statue. It's currently, as you see it now, it's on one of my altar stations here in my home, and you can see the ancient statue there with the orange-like crystal sitting between its paws. It's a sphinx-like statue there, and you can see it's definitely feminine. And so, to continue reading about it, the Sphinx statue given us, the androgynous lion human who holds the mystery of the starry way, the zodiac. 12 similar type statues were positioned at specific points in the mystery school complex of Onas, and each was assigned to a specific Mazzarothic throne. This particular statue may not be that old. It's old, there's no doubt, but I don't know if it actually came out of the actual mystery schools, because the people of the land perpetuated a lot of the symbols, especially the main ones. And so, and there's a tiny little hole, you can almost see it by the side of the face. There's also one between the paws that once held incense. Now, this could have been bored holes later, much later than the statue was created, which I believe that's the case because the holes look far more modern. They aren't eroded like the statue itself. However, if you turn the statue over, you would see that it looks almost machine-made on the bottom, which it is not. This is an ancient statue, and Rami can certainly testify to that. His Bedouins dug it up, his Bedouin friends. But he told me that he showed it to me and said, "You see this?" And he showed how, it looked machine-made, but he promised me it was not. And, of course, many years later now we see on YouTube and whatever how there are some of the blocks at the Great Pyramid, lying around on the ground that have the same machine precision cuts on them. And, of course, they are not machine cut either, at least not by humans of this planet in this day and age. So it kind of fits into that particular period of time, possibly. So this could be quite old, and it could be out of the mystery schools. I just don't know for sure. Some things I receive perfectly clear, and other things are just not made known to me. That's just how it goes, I guess, with all us humans. So to continue reading, the mystery school was designed architecturally, such that there were specific energy positions created where the statues had to be placed. The points where the statues were positioned received the power of the MAZZAROTH descending into the sacred geometry of the mystery school and its structures. These points are nodes in the mystery school, drew upon the MAZZAROTHIC thrones through sacred ritual and focused intent of the Hierophants. The Sphinx statues positioned on these nodes thus became portals to anchor the higher emanations of the zodiac to the reality of the mystery school. The mystery school of Onas held an envelope within time-space that was subtly removed from the rest of the world. This is not to say that it was physically removed or invisible. Its presence was removed from the lower astral distractions of the world. When one entered the consciousness envelope or Merkaba of Onas, they would feel a profound shift in their awareness that allowed them to access deeper levels of their spirit self than could be accomplished by them in the outer world. The small Sphinx statues were infused with a certain consciousness of protection and restoration. These infusions employed sacred mantras chanted in a particular order, rhythm, and repetition, along with ritual burning of sacred incense in invocation of higher spiritual presence. Well, that's interesting because they do this, as I said, the statue does have incense holes in it, but I believe those holes were definitely put in later. As I said, they're just not... they don't belong in that older statue. The consciousness or blessings infused into the statues protected the sacred thresholds of the MAZZAROTH within Onas, so that the holy work of the MAZZAROTH could proceed without intrusion. In those days, we're getting really close in time here, 3000-something BC. There was a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of intrusion could have been made in those days, so they were putting in extra safety measures, so to speak. The following Akashic translation by me from the Sefer, a book on Kabbalistic science written by KYI'RA of the Mystery School of Onas, depicts the sacred process of infusion used with these Sphinx statues. The spirit is fallen upon them, denoting the statue's facsimile of the guardian of MAZZAROTH. And they are alive with the presence of God. Let us create a stone in the midst of heaven, from which ariseth his light and glory. There are certain souls who wove the thread of spiritual continuity throughout the 12 mystery schools of the MAZZAROTH. In other words, they incarnated in the experience of all 12. Their purpose in doing this was to establish the thread of continuity needed in the Akashic and the soul world memory for this specific work with the unfolding evolution in the planetary consciousness. At Onas, a particular grouping of souls was charged with carrying the Lemurian Atlantean knowledge form of this work into the New World presentation. The New World knowledge began with Noah's covenant and the Solar Legion after the flood of 2345 BC and ended with the ministry of Jesus Christ. The New World knowledge represented the primary phase of spiritual evolution that the planetary consciousness experienced at that time. Chronologically, the mystery school of Onas was situated between the two lesser world deluges of 5115 BC and 2345 BC, which occurred after the great deluge of 9010 BC. However, there was a small remnant of the mystery school of Onas which did continue past the time of the latter deluge of 2345 BC. The period of operation for the mystery school of Onas was a crucial time for preserving the ancient knowledge of the Atlantean epoch, for although Atlantis was swept asunder as a nation in 9010 BC, its colonies and teachings were still persisted through the time of the second lesser deluge. With the last deluge of 2345 BC, the descendants of Noah began to populate the earth, bringing with them what could be called the Old Testament knowledge form. The mystery school of Onas being the last mystery school of the MAZZAROTH to be intact after the series of deluges, was the remaining hope to carry the light codes of the last remaining pure vestiges of the Lemurian Atlantean consciousness forward in time. It was successful to some degree in this endeavor. Temple 7 listed here is the, Ru-Ra-Ru. R-U-R-A-R-U. No, I can't even spell it. R-U-R-A-R-U. Yeah, that's right. Ru-Ra-Ru, I guess. Mystery School. The meaning of that word that I just said is the undulating serpent. This mystery school was located in Babylon. It is here that Noah's descendants changed the knowledge form from being carried forth from Atlantis into the New World knowledge symbolized by the Rainbow Covenant of Noah. The Rainbow Covenant is a term from the records of Thoth. In the Bible, it is represented in the covenant God made with Moses, whereby he would never again destroy the world with water, and to seal this promise, God produced the first rainbow in the sky. The records of Thoth impart a somewhat different version. This covenant was made between the Atlantean Moses and the Solar Legion, a branch of the spiritual hierarchy who oversaw the actions of the Brotherhood of the Sun on earth. Noah was from among the Brotherhood of the Sun. These were souls who carried a strong solar consciousness light patterning born of stellar genetics from the MAZZAROTH worlds. Thoth was also one of the sunborn, as they were called. When the canopy composed of ice particles in the atmosphere broke apart with the Atlantean deluge, individual rainbows were then possible in the sky. Until that occurrence, the whole sky carried a delicate prismatic effect, negating the possibility of an individual rainbow. Now, I don't know if this proves out scientifically or not. This is just something that I received, and I'm sharing it as I do. Despite all the symbology involved, there was a covenant between Moses, who was one of the few remaining sunborn by the time he landed on Mount Ararat, and the Solar Legion, that the latter would guide humanity, and the Solar Legion. I better start that sentence again. Despite all the symbology involved, there was a covenant between Moses, who was one of the few remaining sunborn by the time he landed on Mount Ararat, and the Solar Legion, that the latter would guide humanity in a way which would hopefully prevent another world deluge of water. These deluges had obviously been a result of tremendous karmic forces building in the planetary consciousness. Thus, the Solar Legion was commissioned to help humanity understand the true path of divine realization in order to prevent such future or further cosmic forces from accumulating. The Ruraru Mystery School, I actually said it, was spawned through Noah's generation of time travelers, while the Mystery School of Onas held the patterns of ancient divine lineage through succession. In other words, Ruraru had its initial spiritual directive installed via the knowledge that Noah and his generations carried through the time gate, whereas Onas had its initial spiritual directive commissioned via the knowledge carried forth from the previous mystery schools of the MAZZAROTH by the grouping of souls that incarnated in all the listed mystery schools of MAZZAROTH previous to it. The difference here is that Noah's people broke with the path of the Atlantean knowledge. Onas carried the Atlantean connection forward without a break because it was contained within a successive order of incarnational flow through linear time. It was essential that the Lemurian Atlantean knowledge survive in some form as this changing of the guards occurred. Thus, this group of Onas souls also incarnated into the Babylonian school to wed the Onas-Atlan dynamic with that which was forming at Ruraru. Okay, there's a little piece that's left out of this because it was in previous material. This whole thing with Noah and the ark, and I'm not going to go into huge detail, but it's kind of hard to explain otherwise. There was a time tsunami on Atlantis. The last deluge was actually a time tsunami. I mean, it was already breaking down, but the tsunami really did it. And it actually split the timelines and this and that and the other. And what happened was that Noah and his arks, that were carrying genetic material, were caught up in the time wave. So they left the planet in one time, 9,000 whatever, and they arrived in 4,000 whatever. In other words, they did a time jump. So that's kind of far out, as John Denver would say, but that's what I received. And incidentally, after I received that, some years later, I happened to come across in the Keys of Enoch something that really seems to indicate that. It doesn't say it like this, but I can't remember the exact passage. I have it somewhere in these materials, but it indicates that Noah and his ships were caught up in something, So there you have it. But this is what this is referring to. Noah did a time jump with the genetic material in hand, and so his whole mystery school of Ruraru, or not his, but coming out of that, has a different energy than the ones that were up to that time brought through in linear succession, time linear succession. Okay, now we go to number 8, Mir Og Mystery School. That one I can pronounce. Circa 1410 BC, was located in the Fortingall region of Scotland. Here the souls carrying the thread of incarnational continuity through the 12 Mazzarothic mystery schools made a transfer of the New World knowledge to the souls who were involved in the preparative activities for the Age of Christ, or the New Dispensation. This New World knowledge was a combination of the Old World knowledge and new information that had been accessed through the zodiacal portals of the MAZZAROTH with the assistance of the spiritual hierarchy. The preparation stage for the Age of Christ was a period of overlap between the New World period and the Christic Age. This stage drew upon the New World format, yet transposed this knowledge into an advanced understanding applicable to the coming Christian era, or Christic era. The preparation for this new era involved the process of training souls to be able to integrate the new Christic illumination so that it would then be incorporated into the world soul. At both the MAZZAROTH Mystery School in Fordingball, Scotland, and the Mount Carmel Mystery School at Galilee, the next mystery school to be discussed here, the pre-Jesus Christian mystery / Grail knowledge was merged within the MAZZAROTHIC mystery school framework to eventually become exemplified in the life of the Master Jesus. While MAZZAROTH and Mount Carmel were both mystery schools of the Grail, MAZZAROTH, they were also among the 12 primary MAZZAROTHIC mystery schools of the Zodiac. The Grail itself is representative of the consciousness of the higher worlds of knowledge, the MAZZAROTH, beyond the confines of the thresholds of the Zodiac held in the MAZZAROTH. Thus, the mystery schools of MAZZAROTH and Mount Carmel serve the purpose of merging the path of the MAZZAROTH and that of the Grail, or MAZZAROTH. The Christ ultimately represented the Grail MAZZAROTH. The Christic mystery offers humanity the way into the higher worlds of MAZZAROTH. And so 9 is Mount Carmel Mystery School, circa 1386 BC. Was located in Galilee before, during, and after Elijah's physical participation there. In its most ancient and secret name, known only to its initiates, was, oh my God, okay, JOPHIRHADZIKAL, and I'm not even trying to pronounce that. The original mystery school of Mount Carmel was founded by a Hebraic Celtic member of the Grail family known as Japhael. His mother was the sister of Helene, the great-grandmother of Mariana, who was the mother of Jesus. The Nathan Christ soul, or that pure soul of Christ, only incarnation. Japhael was the incarnation of the Solomon Christ soul, or the one that I'm also now calling the Osiris Christ soul, before the Jesus incarnational experience took place. Japhael was 21 years old when he arrived at Mount Carmel, having come from Scotland for the first time. He had been given the assignment of founding a mystery school at Mount Carmel as a sister to the one in Fordingball by the Inner Planes order known as the Academy of Christ. 16 initiates came with Japhael from Fordingball, all of whom were of the sacred order of the Rose, or Sharim, from whence comes the name the Rose of Sharon. Thus, this group of initiates became the first hierophants of the Mount Carmel Mystery School. Their robes were of royal blue with emerald green borders and sash. The symbol for the order of the Sharim was a rose pierced through by the sword of light. Their mystery was, of course, the Grail mystery, and it was brought into focus by the Solomon Christ soul, who would incarnate at the same time as the Nathan Christ soul, as the Christed solar Lord Jesus. So what I was calling Solomon Christ, I'm now calling Osiris, to give an idea of where this soul went. And the Nathan Christ, I'm just saying the pure soul. But no, this is a long time ago. I'm just, struggling with words and going back and forth with those. That's why I call these translations, you see. I'm not leaving the body and Thoth is coming in and speaking through me. I'm translating the Thothic intelligence streaming that's coming to me. So, I have some choices here in words I use. What else did I want to say before we left that? Oh, all about these beautiful robes and the colors and the sashes and everything. This was the picture. This was the official picture they envisioned of it. And certain ceremonies and certain peoples would wear these robes at times in the very beginning of this order. Mostly they didn't do that. They were very simply clad like monks, ancient monks or something, and they didn't go around with these fancy duds on. But those were the official colors, symbols, seals, and in ceremony in the New Ages, the first period of time, they would do that. Later, that wasn't even done then, and they probably had even forgotten about some of those symbologies because things change, as time goes on. So now we go to number 10, College of Pythagoras. This is 529, circa 529 BC. Located in Italy, his college contained a lost mystery working on the sacred numerology of the MAZZAROTH dynamic. From Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, quote, Pythagoras established a school, or as it has sometimes been called, a university, at Crotona, a Dorian colony in southern Italy. He gathered around him a small group of sincere disciples whom he instructed in the secret wisdom which had been revealed to him, and also in the fundamentals of occult mathematics, music, and astronomy, which he considered to be the triangular foundation of all arts and sciences. Unquote. According to Diogenes Laertius, who lived in the 3rd century BC, Pythagoras studied in Delphi, Greece, under the oracle of some oracle, before founding his mystery school in Italy. From the book entitled Priestess by Norma Laurie Goodrich, we have this quote. Before Pythagoras completed his formal studies at Delphi, Pythagoras had already worked under the best teachers of his day. He spent 22 years in Egypt. There he underwent his first initiation into the mysteries, i.e. he descended into the underworld and or suffered a cataleptic death and was reborn into a more powerful second life. Second life. For those of you who don't know, I'm a participant in Second Life. Leaving Egypt after his graduation, which was the initiation, i.e. the initiation and graduation were the same event, Pythagoras went next to Babylon. There he studied 12 more years, this time under the Magi. After these 34 years of advanced study, Pythagoras journeyed to Delphi. There he formulated and expressed these doctrines, which spread widely over Europe during his lifetime. These teachers and their students continued this dissemination of doctrine. Now that's the end of that quote. And I am saying now, by the time Pythagoras had established his mystery school at Crotona, he had incorporated the most arcane sacred doctrine into his experience, and having been handed down to him through the priesthood of the light over the ages, originating from such beings as Melchizedek and Enoch, both have incarnational layers of Thoth in them, in most ancient times. The mystery of MAZZAROTH was central to the great work of these masters, and thus became so to the esoteric teachings of Pythagoras as well. We have another quote from Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages. Greek mystics believed that the spiritual nature of man descended into material existence from the Milky Way, the seeds ground of souls, through one of the gates of the 12 zodiacal band. The spiritual nature was therefore said to incarnate in the form of the symbolic creature created by magician stargazers to represent, he's actually saying Magian stargazers, like the Magi, to represent the various zodiacal constellations. If the spirit incarnated through the form of Aries, it was said to be born in the body of a ram, in Taurus, in the body of the celestial bull. All human beings were thus symbolized by 12 mysterious creatures through the natures of which they were able to incarnate into the material world. So that's the end of that quote. And I say, it was from Egypt and the mystery schools of the Dead Sea and Galilee that the Greeks received their knowledge of the MAZZAROTH. The main point here is the Greeks were also working with the mystery of MAZZAROTH. Now we come to Mystery School 11, which is the Galilee Mystery School, circa 95 AD, located on Mount Tabar and founded by Simeon ben Yochai and his disciples. This mystery school had no actual name and consisted of only a handful of initiates. However, it represented a major threshold for the mysteries of the MAZZAROTH in that it provided a powerful mechanism for insertion of the MAZZAROTHic consciousness into the planetary mind. Simeon ben Yochai received much of his higher level information through actual visitations by souls working within the inner planes, order by the name of the Academy of the Righteous. Obviously, the inner planes don't really have names. I don't think they name things, but this is what was given at some point to some people somehow. From his interaction with these souls, Simeon ben Yochai created a work which is considered by scholars of the Kabbalah to be a pillar of illumination in the Kabbalistic tradition, and thus from the greater perspective in the mystery of MAZZAROTH as well. Corinne Helene, in her New Age Bible interpretation of Old Testament, writes, and I quote, "The initiate knows the fairy chariot in a special sense, as intimated in the story of Simeon ben Yochai, who had spent 12 years in hiding in a cavern in Galilee, where he wrote his great book on Kabbalistic mysteries." I'm choosing to skip just a little bit of that story that was quoted there, and we go down to say, so it was through the Kabbalah that the mystery school of Simeon ben Yochai established its link to the work of the mystery of the MAZZAROTH. Thoth states, to comprehend the link between the mysteries of the Kabbalah and the MAZZAROTH, it is first necessary to understand that there are actually 12 spheres within the pure form of the holy Sephiroth. The two additional Sephira are Thoth, representing vision, which is located between Kether and Tephiroth, and Ta'utak Ayi, representing risen truth, and which is located above Kether. At the time of the final cataclysmic events that occurred congruent with the final sinking of Atlantis, both Thoth and Ta'utak, were sealed away from the world-soul experience. Yet within the thresholds of the MAZZAROTH, these two Sephira will reside as part of the 12-sphere dynamic of the Sephiroth that is reflected in each one of the 12 thrones of the MAZZAROTH. And so now I continue saying, we'll explore the connection between the Sephiroth and the MAZZAROTH numerologically here. There are 4 worlds in the Kabbalah. I'm not going to say them all, okay? But there are 4 worlds in the Kabbalah. In the pure form of the Holy Sephiroth as described by Thoth, the Sephira Ta'utak I is the connecting point between the worlds. Thus there are 11 Sephira in each octave, with a 12th that serves as the gate between worlds. This gate is commonly thought to be Kether. In actuality, it is the realization of Kether that allows the individual to eventually access Ta'utak Awi. Numerologically, then, the 4 octaves of the pure Sephiroth comprise 44 primary Sephira, with 3 gates, or Ta'utak, between them. One final Ta'utak Sephira gate that leads to the MAZZAROTH worlds of light. Thus, the entire numeric here is then 48. So within the higher worlds of MAZZAROTH, we currently have the pure image of the 12th Sephira, Holy Sephiroth, but the 2 additional Sephira in the pure form are still sealed from the experience of most of the souls on earth. In projecting from the thresholds of MAZZAROTH to the physical earth, there are also 12 polarities of descent into matter. Briefly, these 12 polarities of descent represent a series of 180-degree phase shifts, something like a hall of mirrors, each image an exact duplicate, but reversed from the one previous. This is also akin to a photographic negative vs. positive image. In this case, we would have a series of 12 images being reflected that have gone through 180-degree phase reversals: positive, original, negative, positive, negative, and so on. I'm concerned that the mowing in the background is showing up on the recording. I sincerely hope not, but I just want to finish this. It's almost through here. So I'm skipping a lot of the math stuff. Again, you can get this volume if you want to read all of that. I'm just going on to the last, the 12th of the orders given here, the Way of the Red Lion, circa 1275 AD. The mystery work culminating in the compilation of the Zohar, referred to as the Book of Splendor, compiled by Moses de Leon and others in Granada, Spain. I'm going to abbreviate, whoops. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to skip a lot of there's some quotes from Corinne Helene's Bible interpretations about the Zohar and how it was written by the Jew of Granada, Moses de Leon, in the 13th century. He stated that he had found a jar in a cavern in Galilee, the book of Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai, and he proceeded to translate it and bring it forth. Thoth verifies that this is true, and this is interesting, but I'm just going to skip some of it here because we've been going on for so long, and the mowing is in the background now. So I just want to end this. It's right at the end. Okay, let me try that again. Thoth further reveals that Moses de Leon did not simply happen upon the jar containing Simeon ben Yochai's scrolls. Rather, he went directly to the location where they were to be found and knowingly revealed them. He was able to accomplish this because his soul had been incarnated previously as the very same Simeon ben Yochai. So Moses and Simeon were the same soul dude, okay? And he knew where to find the jars. The members of the Way of the Red Lion gathered the information from the Zohar. Many of them went with Moses de Leon on a 7-year journey across Europe, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East to collect arcane knowledge for this project. It was on this pilgrimage that de Leon was physically led to the scrolls of Simeon ben Yochai. The Zohar is seen historically as a strictly Hebrew Kabbalistic work. However, the members of the Way of the Red Lion, who were Moses de Leon and his company in the 13th century Spain, were focused on incorporating the alchemical and Kabbalistic patterns of true mystical Christianity. This was purposely integrated in a way that would not be obvious to the uninitiated, but held specific signs and codes for those who were and would be initiates of this path in the future. The mystery of MAZZAROTH is accessed at its most supernal level through the hidden messages of the Kabbalistic writings as penned by those of the Way of the Red Lion, and is written and is witnessed via the stages of alchemical transformation which unfold in the soul as a result of embracing these higher consciousness dynamics. Oh my goodness, well, we are through with that. I hope it wasn't too long for all of you and you managed to get through all my stuttering and chaos. But I think it's very powerful, and of course this is my opinion, and I'm hardly objective, but I simply feel that by my reading it again, and as I said many times, I've not read this material except on rare occasion, maybe a tiny sentence or two, and most of it none at all, in all these years. So I'm reading it with you almost as if the first time, although it jogs my memory as I go along. And I feel that I'm able to impart codes to you, despite my disruptive language, the way I can't speak very well. But I feel that those codes are coming through as you're listening to it. And also, if you have interest in this material, I'm updating it or commenting on it and taking it to a deeper level. As far as the mystery schools are concerned, these particular 12, and there are many other beautiful ones as well, but these are the ones that were chosen for this. They're very prominent with what we're calling the Brotherhood of Light or whatever. By accessing the information of this, if you're drawn to it at all, if you're not drawn to it, then it's irrelevant. But if you're drawn to it, if you're drawn to the mystery schools and these ancient things, it's helping you to establish a basis, a platform for your soul integration so that you can move beyond it into the new referencing points. At least that's my take on it. So everyone, thank you all for listening, and much aloha to you. Until the next time.